So welcome everyone, good evening. And this is our Fallbrook Climate Action Team meeting. And if you're not aware of what we do, or if it's your first time joining us, welcome. And the Climate Action Team is a nonpartisan group of volunteers concerned about climate change. And we bring you various topics on the last Tuesday of each month. And next month, which will be October 26th, the final Tuesday of October, we will have someone, her name is Shreya Rachmanadran. I hope I say that correctly. And she's from the Gray Water Project. She started that group at a very young age, and she's going to speak to us on using gray water. So it should be very, very interesting. And we do have the Fallbrook Climate Action Team. We have a website with a lot of information on it, as well as links to these presentations. So you can listen to this one again, or you can go review ones that we've done in the past. And that website is fallbrookclimateactionteam.org. So, and we've got other information on there too. So feel free to check that out. So before we get started with our speaker, we've got two announcements. Jackie, I think we're going to start with you. Is Deanna on yet?
No, I don't see Deanna.
Okay, so we might just have one announcement. So Jackie, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you for the few announcements that you have.
I think Deanna is here.
Oh, okay.
Different name.
Okay, then we'll have to. But Jackie, go ahead and lead us off.
All right, I'll lead off with telling you that having met with our Save Our Forest team, and Tim came along, who helped tremendously last year when we did first did our Cut the Carbon program. We will reinstitute that this year for the planting season, which starts usually mid to late October, depending on the weather, and can, weather permitting, lasts through early May if the weather is good. So all through those months, I hope all of you that are here, and we'll do some advertising in the paper, an article in the paper, and alert the people that we're renewing our interest in helping plant trees in Fallbrook and allowing individuals to feel like they're making a difference. This is, many of people say to me, well, how can I make a difference in this worldwide problem? Well, the way you can make a difference is to plant a tree. And that is an important factor when you stop and think about all the things you learned when you were in school regarding the photosynthesis process, what the tree itself uses for food to develop its root system, and the process that it goes through to do that. So this is the program. You would be doing a number of things that would benefit you. Planting the tree in the right place, which is part of our visit to your home. If you decide that you have room for another tree, we call it, it's a free tree. Your membership in the Land Conservancy, a $50 membership in the Land Conservancy, which is a year-long membership, affords you the free tree. We come to your home, give you an evaluation of the benefits of placing the right tree in the right place. Many people like to consider that you're not only saving air conditioning in the summer months, but you are, if you plant a deciduous tree that loses its leaves, it allows the winter sun to warm your home. So it's a good thing to really carefully consider a number of things. We see people who today in our very own community who are topping trees. Terrible thing to do. That's a terrible thing to do. So choose your tree according to the height that reaches, and we provide that information for you based upon the trees that we know grow well in our community and its climate. So planting the right tree will not only help you save dollars for air conditioning, it will help you warm your home in the summer. It can do so many other things, of course, the benefit of trees. And it is important for your pocketbook to choose the right tree. You see people who have topped their tree. The tree says, "Oh my gosh, I have no source of food now. You've taken away my source." And so it says, "I've got to have the source. I need those leaves. I need those branches to feed my roots, to make me grow better." And what it does is it shoots out growth twice as tall as what it would have happened if it was pruned properly. Do not top a tree. So you are saving money, and we'll have to do it over and over again and again. And pruning by a professional arborist is not cheap. So that's an important thing. And we will also help provide information to you about defensible space, which involves where you plant that tree, and follow-up is needed, as needed is offered. So that is a wonderful program. Also, Tom, if you can put up that picture, or Tim, of invasive fountain grass, I'd like to have everybody look at it closely and understand what it is. And so we are fighting the battle downtown, and we have been successful in some areas and unsuccessful in others. This is the invasive fountain grass, and you think, "Oh, I see that all the time." It's growing on Main Street, in the gutters, in places all over Fallbrook. And you think, "Oh yeah, I like that. Isn't that pretty?" Yes, it is pretty, but when it's out of town, not in town. This is the same botanical name as the purple fountain grass that is used in landscaping. It looks very similar, except the leaves and the spears are purple and lavender tinged. And it is essentially been hybridized, and it is sterile. It does not reseed itself very readily. It has been known to do it, but seldom. This stuff here, those feathers blow off, the wind blows it, the rain scatters it, your car passing it blows them off because they're so feathery light. They stick to your bumper. You carry it to a parking lot, and there it is in the parking lot coming up. So we're trying very hard to eradicate it and trying to figure out a method, because we have actually homes that are cultivating it. And so therefore there are blocks in town that every property on the block has it. And so I want you to be sure you look at it. And if you see these little green clumps coming up in your yard, get that baby before it actually gets its roots in, because the roots are like wire. Tim can attest to that. They're hard to get out. So that is an important, very, very important factor that I'm doing one little piece of education, because we're going to continue to try to develop methods to get eradicated, at least in the heart of town. Because out in the wild somewhere, and on the highway where we're driving from one community to the other, yeah, it does look sort of pretty out there, but let's keep it out there. So that's the couple of the things, Terry, that I wanted to mention tonight. That is important.
Terry, we need to move on, I think.
All right.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Jackie. And I'll
You're
just,
welcome.
the Cut the Carbon program, if you're interested in purchasing a tree, we'll put, Tim, if you could put your email in the chat function, feel free to contact Tim, and we'll make that connection. So Deanna, real quick, if you could just touch on a quick announcement, and then we'll move on to our speaker.
Okay, hi there. There's currently a proposition in which they're gathering signatures for, and it's called the Water Infrastructure Funding Act of 2022. If you see this petition, do not sign it. They're presenting it as water for all of us, but it's being funded by the same people who were behind the recent recall, and Poseidon and the Resnicks. This ballot would benefit private water companies and big ag. And so we're asking you to not sign the petition. or
Okay,
say no on the ballot.
very good. Okay, thanks so much for that. So before we introduce our speaker, just want to remind everyone of a couple of ground rules. We're going to put everyone on mute just so we can keep a quiet line, except for our speaker, obviously. And then if you do have a question that occurs to you during the presentation, go ahead and use the chat function to type in your question, and then we'll address the questions at the end. And if you're not familiar with how to get to the chat function, just scroll down to the bottom of your Zoom screen and you'll see an icon that says chat. Click on that. That'll open up a side box, and then you'll be able to type in your question there. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over.
Could we tell people about next month's meeting?
Oh, I already mentioned that at the earlier. Next month, October 26th, we have Shreya Rachmanandran from the Greywater Project speaking on Greywater. So I thought I already mentioned that at the beginning.
Okay, I didn't see Tom's flyer, so. All
We'll
right.
do that at the end. We're
Okay.
Yeah.
running late.
Yeah, but it should be interesting. As I mentioned, she at a quite young age, she started this project. And so it should be interesting to speak on Greywater. So, okay, let's get to Sebastian. Saria, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, Sebastian, so please correct me. I'll have you do a little bit more in-depth introduction. But Sebastian is the Program and Policy Manager for San Diego Community Power, who is our new energy provider for San Diego County. So Sebastian, let me turn it over to you. First of all, give us your proper pronunciation of your name and give us a little bit about your background.
That was perfect. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Terry. I was born in Colombia, so if you want to pronounce it in Spanish, it's completely different.
I got to roll my R's.
Yeah, Sarria.
There we go.
But hi, everybody. My name is Sebastian Sarria. I am the Program and Policy Manager with San Diego Community Power, a local community choice aggregator, joint powers authority made up of now 6 member agencies. Let me share my screen. I brought a PowerPoint with me.
You should be good to go, Sebastian.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, first of all, for having us. We're very excited to get into the unincorporated parts of San Diego County. I imagine this is the first of many outreach to your group, as we want to make sure that we serve the communities of the unincorporated county well. So who is SCCP? As I mentioned, we are a community choice aggregator, a joint powers authority, kind of like SANDAG, if you will, a plethora of public agencies that have come together for the benefit of providing choice to our residents and businesses, as well as a higher renewable energy content and a public agency where decisions are made in your benefit. So as you guys may know, we started off with 5 founding cities. As you see here, Chula Vista, Encinitas, Imperial Beach, La Mesa, and the city of San Diego. And then happy to add this new logo here on the bottom right of San Diego County, and then very likely to add the city of National City in the coming month as well. So we would be growing to 7 members. So how does SCCP work? How does the CCA model work? And it can be a little bit technical, but to boil it down into 3 segments, you have the generation of electricity, and let me find my mouse here. Generation of electricity, you have your delivery and distribution, and then you have the customer billing. We partner with SDG&E for the delivery and distribution and customer billing, so everything is smooth for customers. But where we step in is that SCCP is now sourcing a higher renewable energy content on your behalf. So as you may know, many of our public agencies have, in the state, have very ambitious but much needed goals to increase renewable energy and lower our greenhouse gas emissions. So SCCP takes care of the generation portion. And we partner with SDG&E where you still provide where you still receive one bill from SDG&E. But instead of it saying SDG&E generation, it says STCP generation, and everything else stays the same. So what are our values? We were formed by the community. We were formed because the initial 5 cities wanted an agency that would provide, first of all, choice. Many of us, before SCCP and Clean Energy Alliance, the other CCA in the county, started, we started off with SDG&E, and now you're provided a choice. If you wish to stay with SDG&E, you have that option that you've never had before. And if you wish to stay with us, you can certainly do that as well. And we really believe that choice provides benefits to our ratepayers, because by there being competition, then we get to strive for you better, and so does SDG&E. We are a public agency, so we have open meetings where our board of directors are elected officials, and they're held accountable by you. So our meetings are held in the public, where we set rates, where we talk about our budget, where we talk about the programs that are coming up, and there you have the opportunity to weigh in and have your say. And that is something that previously none of us had. We consider, obviously, customer impact on community investment. SCCP has developed a community advisory committee. It's made up of at least one member, one resident or business owner from each member jurisdiction. So right now we're in talks of expanding our CAC, as we call it, Community Advisory Committee, so we can welcome in our unincorporated San Diego County neighbors. And then obviously, clear path to 100% renewable. We are the first CCA in the state to embed within our Joint Powers Authority agreement. We call it our constitution, if you will, the goal to reach 100% renewable energy by 2035 or sooner. We're aware that some cities, so for example, the city of Encinitas and the city of Imperial Beach, have a goal to reach 100% renewable by 2030, while other cities have a goal to reach by 2035. We're also here to support the local economy. We do that very proactively by working with our community advisory committee, by working with regional stakeholders on how to develop local projects that can stay here in our local economy and benefit our workers. We strive for equity. We are aware that we are here to listen to our community, and we will listen to that and take it to heart so we can implement programs that benefit everybody. We strive to save you money and help the environment. Our basic rate service provides energy that's competitive to SDG&E, and we believe that's a win. And then again, you're going to hear a lot of the same values and words coming out of my mouth. We're very heavily community focused. It's in our name. And that is why we became an agency, because we came about the need of the community to have an alternative to SDG&E. Here's a quick look at who makes up SCCP right now. Our staff, we are growing very quickly. We're hiring full-time staff that's devoted day in and day out to making this program a success. We have hired experts in the CCA field from several CCAs in the state, they want to come to SCCP. They see that SCCP is being successful and it's growing, and we also have good weather. That helps. So we're getting a lot of experts that have done this before. They want to work for us, and I'm happy to see them here. We're also hiring locals. One example is Rita de la Fuente, who's here on the bottom right. She previously worked for the convention center and now works for us. We want to make sure we have people with local connections who know everybody, who know how to manage the dynamics of our ecosystem. Here we have our current board of directors. Haven't updated it yet, but we will be adding, obviously, Supervisor Lawson Reamer, and then eventually our board rep from the City of National City, but that's yet to be decided. And then, as I mentioned before, here at the bottom, we have our Community Advisory Committee. Right now, we have it set up as 2 reps per member jurisdiction. But since we're growing a little bit big, we're looking at moving to 1 rep and one alternate. So we can accommodate a functioning, productive committee that gets stuff done. And so, as you can see here, we have reps from Chula Vista, Encinitas, Imperial Beach, La Mesa, and San Diego. So what do we offer? As I mentioned before, a lot of this will be repetitive, but we offer, obviously, competition to the local utility. We offer more renewable energy at a competitive cost. We offer effective customer service, local decision-making and transparency through the public meetings that I talked about, innovative program offerings, and ratepayer advocacy. So a couple of notes on the last 2. On the program offerings, right now, I'm working on the programs team, and we're developing a roadmap to create what we're terming a community power plan. What this basically means is that we want to hear from the community. We want to hear from the people we serve, and we're going to serve. What should our programmatic outlook look like for the next 3 to 5 years? We want to make sure that whatever programs we think about, we've heard it from you. And so right now we're in the early stages. We'll be engaging unincorporated San Diego County residents, such as yourselves, in getting this feedback. So Joy, I will be reaching out to you on this. And that'll really make sure that we have a solid foundation. And we're doing this because some of the most successful CCAs out there, such as East Bay Clean Energy and Clean Power Lines, have done the same thing. And we want to make sure that we follow those footsteps, but also make it local. Add, our local San Diego twist to it. And then ratepayer advocacy. The Public Utilities Commission is a complicated place. And by having us around, you have an ally, an advocate in pushing for benefits to our ratepayers. Before, you would only have SDG&E there. And I'm not saying they're a bad actor or anything, but it's better to have 2 brains than 1. So a little breakdown on our service offerings. We offer 2 products, as we like to call them, in terms of energy offerings. We offer one, which is our standard service, Power On, and we offer Power 100, which is our premium product. All customers, unless we're told otherwise by the jurisdiction under which will be started at Power On, and that is broke. You would be receiving 50% renewable energy at minimum. At a competitive cost. And we offer Power 100. So we acknowledge that not everybody can afford this, but for just a slight more, for 3/4 cent per kilowatt hour, we offer Power 100, which is 100% renewable energy. Compared to SDG&E's Eco-Choice program, it is much, much cheaper. And I have a slide that's coming up that will show the breakdown. here's a quick visual on how much more renewable energy we offer than SDG&E. Right now, SDG&E is at around 31% renewable energy, while we offer our standard service, it is close to 20% more, and then obviously Power 100. I do want to note that our power on service is 50% renewable and 5% carbon free. What does that mean? It means that there's large hydropower in there. And under PUC rules, large hydro doesn't qualify as renewable. We have a cool initiative called Power 100 Champions. So we obviously acknowledge that going to Power 100 is not for everybody, but we want to celebrate those that do. And so by opting up to Power 100, you join a group of businesses that are supporting 100% renewable energy. This is a program we currently have for our business customers. We're looking to do something similar for residential once we roll out residential customers to the existing 5-member cities next year. But it basically, we want to celebrate you, and we want to thank you for taking this next step in reducing your carbon footprint. And I should note that we're very proud to share, as many of you may have heard, that the airport has opted up to Power 100. So they're one of our customers who are a Power 100 champion. So a little bit on rates and billing. So here's a one key, and I can share these slides with Joy and Tom and everybody afterwards. But there's different rates that customers are under. This is a TOUAS rate, and as you can see, we comparing a Power 100. Power on SCCP rate. It is just a few dollars cheaper than SDG&E, but it's still lower. But really, where the kicker is, if you see the Power 100 rate, it is considerably much lower if you were to go with equal choice. So we're proud about that. Here's another comparison. And again, these are more for business customers, since that's our focus right now. That's why you see the bill's a little bit high. But here's the considerable difference among the different options. So SCCP Power On, Power 100, the SDG&E default, and if you were opt to equal choice. We offer, I encourage you all to look at our website. We have a bill calculator or bill estimator where you can take your SDG&E bill and plug in the numbers, the usage that you typically have for that billing period, the rate that you're under, and you can calculate, okay, do I really want to stay with STCP, or do I want to opt out and go to SDG&E? You certainly have resources here. And if at any point there are questions or anything, we have a dedicated team of professionals that are willing to help you analyze your bill. We have a contact center. I have a number at the end that I can share with you all as well. So what's changing, what's not changing with us coming into the picture? As I mentioned, your bill still comes from SDG&E. Just that one line item changes with us. You still get the service reliability through SDG&E since they manage the poles and wires. We're only here for the generation portion. The rate structures are not changing. We acknowledge, SDG&E has set up the system, and we don't want to introduce something that will cause confusion among customers. The discounts that many of our most vulnerable customers have, such as CARE, FERA, will still maintain. And also, your day-to-day. What's changing more renewable energy, an effective customer service and support team. We are very responsive. It is in our mantra to hear the response from our community, and if changes need to be made, we will look to implement those. Competitive rates. So right now, power on is 1% cheaper than the SCG&E default. We reinvest back into the community. I mentioned the community power plan idea, but we have a slew of other ideas that I can talk for an hour about. I encourage you all to look at our most recent board meeting. My colleague, Nelson Lamelli, another program manager, he gave a briefing on the program ideas that we have for this next fiscal year. And so I encourage you all to take a look more in there. And then new programs to address local needs. If there's something that works for the city of San Diego, but doesn't work for Fallbrook, tell us about it, and vice versa. We want to make sure we're responsive to the needs of our constituents. So what's upcoming on enrollment? We just concluded 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2 of customer enrollment. Phase 1 was earlier this year in March, where we started serving municipal customers in the existing 5-member cities. Then we just completed our very big phase in terms of load in June of this year for commercial and industrial customers. And then next year, starting in February, we will start enrolling residential customers for the existing 5-member cities. I should note that direct access customers, so this typically deals with more commercial and industrial customers that have a third-party arrangement with a different developer. Those are not eligible for SCCP service. Now, I also want to note that we will be starting enrolling solar customers, otherwise known as net energy metering or NEM customers, next year as well. And a little note on that, because I imagine this is of interest to many of you. We offer net surplus compensation just as SCG&E, but we offer a surplus of the Power 100 adder. So if you remember seeing those 3/4 of a cent, we want to thank you for generating local renewable energy. So you get a little bit more for generating with us than you would with SDG&E. So looking further ahead, now that we have the county on board, we are very focused on making sure that phase 3 goes smoothly, because that's a lot of accounts. But obviously phase 4, as we're now calling it, will be the County of San Diego and likely National City. We haven't gotten into the details yet if that's going to be broken up as we did it with the last 2 phases we had, municipal, commercial, and industrial. It might be one phase, but again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. We're still a little ways away, and we want to hear from Supervisor Lawson-Remer on how to approach this with the unincorporated parts of the county. So phase 4 will be 2023. And then obviously leading up to that, there's going to be a lot of information happening, a lot of noticing. Aside information to share is that we are required to mail postcards to everyone's homes, letting you know twice beforehand, before you're enrolled, that we're new in town and that this service is coming. If you want to opt out, you certainly can. But we do our due diligence in making sure that you're aware that this is happening. And let's see here. And I think that's it. As I mentioned earlier, here is the phone number for our customer service center, where if you have any questions, you can certainly reach out, as well as our email address for our customer service center as well. You can also reach out to me. Happy to respond to any emails. My email is my first name initial and then my last name at sdcommunitypower.org. And follow us on social media. We post a lot of information out there, including job opportunities. We are hiring a lot. Right now, I believe we have 3 or so positions open, and they're all on our website. And if I have those dates mistaken, don't worry, we're going to be hiring a lot more. So if you know any smart people out there, or if you're a smart person yourself, please apply, because we would love to have you. And I'll pause right there. Thank you.
So it looks like we have a lot of questions that have been popping up in the chat box.
Do you want me to answer them, or are you gonna?
Terry?
Okay,
Have Terry do that.
okay, I was gonna turn it over to Bill, but yeah, I can. go
Okay,
ahead and do
okay.
that. So first question, and I think some of this you touched on, but these questions popped up during your presentation, Sebastian. So I'll just go ahead and read them out anyway, and maybe you can just specifically address them. Just want to make sure we find out what changes, if any, will happen for people with home solar.
Yeah, so we there won't be changes really, except that if you decide to stay with us, and we are an opt-out program that is defined by law, so it's out of our hands really. So you're enrolled with us, and then you have the option of returning to SDG&E. So if you decide to stay with us as a solar customer, you get to be compensated a little bit more based on your excess generation. And then obviously the benefits are you get a dedicated team to push for more rooftop solar. So I'll give you an example. There is a very, what's the word? Entertaining proceeding at the PUC on changing the structure for net energy metering 3.0, as they're calling it. And San Diego Community Power, along with San Jose Clean Energy, submitted what they call a reply brief to the proceeding, where we outline our priorities to ensure that the structure, the net energy metering structure, continues to grow sustainably, because we know that's important to our constituents. And we've worked very closely with our community advisory committee. So I know I've mentioned that group a lot, but they really keep an eye and, eyes and ears on everything, and they tell us what's going on, and we listen. So.
Okay, very good. Will SDCP offer a medical lifeline allowance rate as SDG&E currently does?
Yes. Yeah. That stays the same. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's all you mentioned. I think you had a bullet that said all the discounts. That would be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
How about the solar clean energy credit and electric car credits that are currently offered by SDG&E?
So on the solar clean energy credit, I'd have to get back to you on that one, unless that's related to the rooftop solar. But on the electric vehicle, that we haven't pursued that aggressively yet. We want to make sure that through the community power plan, the feedback process that we're going to embark on, if that's the feedback that we get from our community to pursue electric vehicles and charging infrastructure, et cetera, in a very aggressive way, then we can.
Okay, how does rooftop solar conflicts in San Diego County fit in with this effort?
How does?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Let me pull up the chat as well.
Dr. Tim?
Yes, that was mine, but I don't
Okay.
quite understand the details of that rooftop solar conflict rewrite. I presume it's what you mentioned, rewriting the net metering. But this is buying power directly from the consortium. And you will get a discount if you have rooftop solar in the same way. But they're trying to change the rates for certain access to them. And I was just wondering if that affected you at all.
So yeah, that's through the existing NEM proceeding. The PUC has been given direction by the state legislature to take a look at the compensation levels of net energy metering. And the way you get compensated is through over generation. So you send energy to the grid and you get compensated for it through your local system, through your local rooftop system. There's been a lot of proposals, a lot of ideas on how that should go. And SCCP believes that we should maintain it sustainably, that we shouldn't have drastic changes. And because many customers have invested heavily in these systems and they've wanted to see a return on their investment. So that is the point that we're advocating. There will be a proposed decision on this later this year. This, and again, this is all hypothetical, nothing's happened yet, but the idea would be new NEM customers would be on a different structure or a different compensation level. Existing NEM customers, so if you're under the 1.0 or 2.0 arrangement, you would keep the arrangement that you have. And so I hope that answered your question, but on the NEM stuff, it's, again, I could talk hours and hours on that. I would recommend looking at our board meeting recordings and seeing the staff reports from our Director of Regulatory and Legislative Affairs, Laura Fernandez. She's been tackling on this issue much more than I have.
Okay, and Dr. Tim, do you want to go ahead and ask your other two questions?
Sure, I wish I knew more about this. We put rooftop solar several months ago directly with SDG&E and it's worked well. One of the things that I just wondered, we have to sell directly back to the company and then we get our energy from them. Isn't there some efficiency if we had access to direct DC power from the solar cells also, rather than having to convert to AC and then ship it back to us?
That would be outside of my area of expertise. And I'm happy if Terry, if you get Dr. Tim's or the gentleman who was just speaking, their email, I'm happy to get more information on that. But you generate on-site with your system, you consume that generation, and then whatever you over-generated, that is then sold to the grid. And then SDG&E right now would purchase it with us in the picture. We would be the one purchasing it.
Okay, you had one other question there.
Thank you. Let me look back.
You want me to read it? It's an easy one or just a short one.
Yeah, I think you answered it. The benefit from going directly with you, it's just, you already answered it. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Susan, I'll just go ahead and ask your question. What are the sources of renewable energy? Solar, obviously, you mentioned the non-carbon was hydro. Anything else? Wind?
Yeah. Yeah. Here, it's on our website.
I wanted to know where the solar is coming from.
Yeah,
Where,
so
the individual homes, or is it a big solar field, or what?
Yeah, so because we're a brand new agency, we have to contract with existing facilities. It takes time to build something new, just like building a home or a car. So we are purchasing electricity from existing facilities that are on the market, while we build up our portfolio of underground new build resources. If you go on our website, just very quickly, and I can share this after the call as well, we have a breakdown of the specific percentages of the renewable energy. There's some that comes from wind, from solar, from biogas as well. But going back to your point, we just signed several PPAs, power purchase agreements, to get a good amount of our renewable energy requirement from these sources, while also part of the community power plan is developing a roadmap for local generation, because you need to diversify your portfolio in case something goes wrong on one side or the other. We want to make sure we have a good amount of generation locally in Fallbrook, for example, and we want to make sure we have a good amount of generation in terms of the utility scale.
Okay, very good. Then Mark asks, is there any chance phase 4 will happen ahead of schedule since we're on phase 4?
Great question. Unfortunately, the PUC has a rule that you need to submit your implementation plan by December 31st, and then you need to wait a whole year for that entity to be served service. So that's why there was a need for the county to join. If they wanted to begin service in 2023, they needed to join now, because if they waited to join in January, for example, then they would have had to wait until 2024. So it's out of our hands, but as soon as that we can serve San Diego County unincorporated residents will be 2023.
Who stipulates that year? Why is there a year?
Yeah, this really goes into energy forecasting. So the ISO, the PUC, they really want to make their due diligence of, okay, there's going to be a certain amount of load, as we like to say it, that will be moving over to San Diego Community Power. There's a lot of back-end stuff that needs to be done to make sure that it's done smoothly. So it's just really a precautionary mechanism for nothing to go wrong.
Okay. Susan Levis asked, does SDG&E need to add a fee on top of the community power fees?
Great question. So when we develop our rates for Power On and our rates for Power 100, we incorporate what it's known as a power charge indifferent adjustment fee. And what this basically means is that SDG&E throughout the years, and the only ones in town, they have procured energy on your behalf. So they've entered into a series of long-term projects that they've invested money in. By residents leaving their generation service, then they need to recoup those costs. And so that is done by adding just a little tiny percentage on top of the fees that SCCP customers pay, known as the PCIA. However, the way we do it is that we incorporate that into our existing rates to make sure that we're still 1% below their default service. And then obviously for our Power 100, which again, it's much, much cheaper than their eco-choice program.
Okay. But the rates you showed earlier were end use to the customer.
That's correct. It's already embedded. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Joy asked, will there be efforts to get solar to rental units?
Great question. That is a program that I'm working on right now. Again, take a look at our board presentation, but basically we are working to, so as part of all of the fees that all of you and myself as an SDG&E customer right now pay, we pay public purpose charges on our bills. All of that money goes into a big pot, and then those are used for programs. The PUC has proposed a program called Community Solar, and also Disadvantaged Communities Green Tariff Program. Anyways, not to go into too much wonky detail, but we are working on it, and we're hoping to get it off the ground by the end of 2023. So not too long from when you guys will be in service.
Very good. Are you guys a nonprofit, co-op, or a for-profit corporation?
Great question. As a public agency, we're a not-for-profit organization. So any excess revenues get reinvested back into our communities. And so I'll give you guys an example. Let's see here. We allocated $150,000 to assist our member agencies in our member agency staff. So if they have any particular work that they need to be done and they don't have the staff resources, they can tap into those funds. And why did we did that? We're not for profit. We had money that we wanted to allocate for this fiscal year. However, we don't want to do that every year. We really want to center on the direction that the community power plan will give us, so we can hear from you all on how to allocate those funds.
Okay, great. Next two questions are somewhat related. Is there a variation in rates depending on the time of use? And for example, SDG&E charges higher rates from 4 to 9 p.m. Will that continue?
That will continue. That is a rate structure that is mirrored to minimize confusion on the customer end. However, we have a dedicated team of account managers that can assist you with possibly switching your rate if you do not want to be in that one in particular. It does have to go through SDG&E since they're the ones that still control the billing portion. But again, you get an additional advocate. If you're unhappy with the rate that you're on, we're happy to talk to you about it and see if we can find you a better one.
Okay, very good. So that's the customer service number that we would call in at the time, in 2023. Okay. Let's see. Mark asks, this is basically changing from a for-profit power system to a co-op / user-owned system. We would have a say in the decisions, which is not the case with SDG&E. Statement, but is that correct?
Yeah, so we are not a co-op. We're a joint powers authority of member agencies, as we like to call them. But loosely, it's the same thing. We're not for profit, and the decisions, as I mentioned, are made before you. For example, as I mentioned before, you are notified after the fact when rates have increased from SDG&E. However, we have to publicly notice those. So you will know ahead of time if there's any changes in rates, if we're adding a new rate or removing one, and we want to hear from you. And also we have the Community Advisory Committee, who I manage, by the way. I work with them very closely. So whenever I'll just make us a quick plug right here on the CAC. We will eventually be asking for applications to join our CAC. That won't happen for a few months now, but just know that is on the horizon in case you're interested in joining our community advisory group.
Okay, that was a question too. Do we need to wait to 2023 to get represented on the advisory group? But you said it's just going to be a few months. It's like the end of 2021.
Yeah, so we are looking to, so we got to talk to Supervisor Lawson-Remer on that process, but ideally, because we have so much stuff going on, particularly on programs and the rollout for service to county residents, we want to make sure we hear from you guys before the fact. So my personal goal is to get you guys in the door as soon as possible. We just got to go through some administrative hoops.
Okay, very good. Tom asks, we currently pay $0, zero monthly with rooftop. Can we stay at 0 with SDCP? I didn't know you got $0. You don't pay the hookup fee, Tom?
Well, I think maybe there's a $5 a month charge we have to
Yeah.
pay.
Well,
I think
there's
it's
a
$10.
Yeah, there's a $10 a month charge, but most of that we get credited for because of our excess generation. So we end up paying about $50, between $20 and $50 a year, something like that.
Yep, it will be whatever structure you're in right now will continue with us. Just to put a little bit more color into the conversation, really on the NEM 3.0, it's about future customers and how their structure will be set up. And we want it to be very similar, if not the same, to the one that is currently like with you guys.
Okay, very good. And then this looks like it's our final question, and then, unless anybody wants to add anything to the chat or chime in, from Harriet, do you charge a fixed rate or can it float? In Texas during a storm last year, they bought power on the spot market and people had bills of thousands of dollars.
Great question, Harriet. I love that question because I'm a self-proclaimed energy nerd. So the ERCOT, the Energy Regulatory Council of Texas, ERCOT, they are separated from the rest of the United States. So their power, so when a lot of their facilities started turning off, they couldn't get power from New Mexico, they couldn't get power from Louisiana because they're not physically connected. So that really jumped prices up. That's not the case with California. We are within the California Independent System Operator System, but we do get power from New Mexico, from Arizona, a lot of hydropower from the Pacific Northwest, and that allows prices to stay stable. Also, Texas is a little bit of a phenomenon and also a very exciting thing for energy nerds like myself, where the way they set up their structure is that they have wholesale rates. So whatever the developer gets paid from ERCOT for selling power into the grid, it's managed on the wholesale rate system. Here we have retail rates. So it's much more manageable, it's much more predictable, and it doesn't cause those big fluctuations that you saw happen in Texas last year.
Okay, very good. Does anybody else have any other questions? That's the end of it. We do have a couple comments, Sebastian, that you're very knowledgeable. So we appreciate that. And we are, one more just jumped in. We are at the end of our hour here, but let me ask this final one from Eileen. Why is hydropower not considered under renewable energy?
Great question. So there's a delineation. Large hydro is not considered renewable. Small hydro is. And really the difference is on the impact. So a large hydro generating facility has a much bigger footprint. And so in the eyes of the PUC, that is not considered renewable, but a smaller hydro plant that has a smaller footprint, then that is considered renewable. Oh, perfect.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I am a science teacher. Very good. Yeah, very good. A lot of good information here. So Sebastian, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
Happy
you.
for you. We appreciate your time. And this is something I know we've been talking about for several years now. So it's nice that we're finally getting some traction moving forward with this. So appreciate your organization for sure.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. Did you want to give us your email one more time so we have it?
Yeah.
Want to
Yeah,
just read it out?
I'll write it in the chat.
Okay.
And yeah, happy to come back and answer any questions. I've been at this for a little while now. I used to debate against Sempra services a few years ago. So I got to see some really interesting conversations back then that I'm happy to talk to you with over a round of beers sometime. But yeah, happy to be of a resource. I will follow up with more information, particularly as we want to get more feedback from you all, since you are so knowledgeable. So thank you for having me.
Very good. Thank you, Sebastian. And
Thank
Tom,
you.
you want to put up the flyer for next month? Again, it'll be the
Yes.
last Tuesday of October.
And this
October
is-
26th, and it'll be on Gray Water.
This is going to be really great. She's quite famous. She's won a lot of awards, the presidential award with an award with national. Let's see, it's not working. Sorry. Uh-oh. Okay, let's try that again. Sorry, guys. There we go. Yeah, she's 17-year-old
Can't
young
see
lady
it.
from,
There it is. Okay.
There we go.
We're good.
she's been covered in National Geographic. She started this gray water project back in 2016 when she was 17 years old. And she's won a long list of awards. I just put a few of them on here because I couldn't fit all the others. But on her website, graywaterproject.org, you can see more information. So that's going to be a really exciting presentation for our last presentation of the year.
She's also, if I may add, she's taking classes at Stanford. So she's a very bright woman. So we're really excited to have her.
I think we have one other, I don't think this will be our last one of the year. I think we'll have one in November too.
Oh, you're right, of course. I was thinking that.
Yeah, very good. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. Be sure to join us end of October, and we'll see you then. Thanks, everyone. And thank you, Sebastian. He dropped off the line, but thank you. Thanks.
We'll be
Good
sure
night.
to